Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Friday. Yeah, baby. I made it through another week, and what a crazy week it has been. But every week seems like it's a crazy week anymore. We had some rain here in the Valley of the Sun. We always like that. Unfortunately, it looks like, I guess it's already over. Didn't last very long, but we'll take anything that we can get. A little cooler temperatures. Gosh, we were like in the mid-80s last week, kind of like in the mid-60s this week. But still, what's Colorado been? 6 degrees, 8 degrees, 9 degrees. No thanks. I like the weather here just fine. Our toll-free number today, 800. Well, I guess today, every day. 800-951-0592, the physical delivery of what we like to refer to as wealth insurance. Way better than having your money sit in a bank account doing nothing for you, especially with the unabashed amount of money printing the world has entered in. AllAmericanGold.com is the website. You can check that out. Like I said, so many articles, videos, and 99% of it, the show, it's only an hour. And with commercial breaks, it's really only like 40-something minutes. I mean, so much more out there than you're ever going to get from us. But, Jason, we've got a little bit of a pullback. We had a big miss on retail sales today. We've got, I don't know, everyone freaking out about the talk from Trump about Russia and Europe and Ukraine are all upset. And I guess today J.D. Vance is going to meet with Zelensky. But when we sit here and we think about what's coming next, it is the one thing that I think is consistent is all of the savings that they're trying to come up with. All they're trying, we're going to save it so we can spend it on something else, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea, right? Hey, we're going to try to save this money so we can extend tax cuts and we can do that, right? We're not really saving the money, right? We're just going to spend it differently. That's kind of the big problem. And then with the government, they've got a funny way of doing math. So they'll say, we're going to save blah, blah, blah trillions. And, of course, what they don't, you got to finish the sentence over 10 years, right? So they'll come up with a big number, then say over 10 years. The problem is the math that they're using to get to that big number over 10 years is math that everybody and their mother is like, yeah, that's not very realistic. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So you end up only saving about half of what you said. And the problem is you always end up spending more than what you were saving to begin with. Because they do the same type of math. Well, this is going to cost us. So the first math is this is what's going to save us over 10 years, and they use bad math. Then they use even worse math with this is how much this is going to cost us over 10 years. And they always underestimate that number. And then by the time you're done, you just end up with even higher deficits. And that's the thing I think the markets are focusing in on, to where Bank of America yesterday, Jason, started talking about gold 3,500, and this is something where, you know what, just tune into Joe and Jason. We were telling you, listen, remember at the end of last year, I was like, I'm going to be real conservative and say 3,300, but it's probably going to be closer to 4,000, and lo and behold, now, here we sit in all of these banks. You got to remember, gold's going to be 2,800, 2,700. Right now, they're all admitting 3,000. And then Bank of America today let us tell you how we're going to get to 3,500. And all this Bank of America said, they didn't even think about it, all that stuff I just said. They didn't mention any of that. They just said, hey, if investment demand goes up just 10% from where it is, we're going to be at 3,500. Investment demand has, and Jason can tell you this, it's been terrible. Right? It's central bank demand, all this, the demand, not the investor, not the ETF, not you guys call it. Jason, and it only needs to go up 10%. So investor demand has to go from really bad to bad. And we're going to be at $3,500. Yeah, I got a feeling Bank of America is actually going to be right on for the first time in a while.
Yeah, it's the only reason that it, with retail sales being way down on gold and silver and the price keeps going up is because someone's buying it, and we know that the spot price is based mostly off the paper, and this repatriation of gold, this gold coming to America. And when's the last time we thought, gold, America just needs all this gold brought here? Well, because all those ETFs, people are trying to take physical possession, and suddenly all the boats are floating gold back to the United States to cover these big players that have ETFs, and so it's going to push the price. And look, these rich guys, when a couple of them start doing something, and they start looking at each other, it's like, then the next rich guy wants to do it, and then the next one. What if an Elon Musk kind of guy decides he wants his gold ETFs physical? Then what's the price going to do, right, Joe? And all Mr. Musk, I'm sorry, we don't really have that much gold. Can you wait 18 months? Well, as long as
we'll
I get it to 2,900. When he goes to 6,000, I'm not paying that. Okay, Mr. Musk, and then you're at 6,000 gold, right?
Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Friday. Happy Friday out there. Quick look in at the markets. The Dow's down 60, the S&P's up 5, the Nasdaq's up 30. Quiet, right? Quiet. Really bad retail sales numbers. Got the 10-year note back down, right? Hey, forget about inflation, right? Look at how bad these retail sales were. The scary part is, number one, who knows how accurate the number is. So, but let's just take it on face value. It's that bad with inflation accelerating, which kind of makes it even worse out there. Crude oil, pretty flat right now. The gold markets, we have profit taking. Again, you know what? We saw this last Friday. We've seen this happen here quite a bit where you get one day. They'll take profits down, and then usually by the end of the day, it's back, right? It kind of just claws its way back, and then all of a sudden, 2 days later, gold's at new all-time record highs. It closed at an all-time record high yesterday. Right now, gold's right at $2,900, down $28. Silver is up 25 cents, $32.50. Silver has been as high as almost $33.50 this morning. But again, some routine, I'll call it routine profit taking. Either way, make sure you take advantage of any pullbacks that you see in these markets, because they don't happen very often. They don't last very long. Think about it. Just in the last year, gold's up, almost $900. $900 in just the last year alone. And what's amazing is during that time, it barely let people in. I mean, I think the biggest pullback we had was like $150. And I want to say within a week of that, it was right back to where it was. I mean, it just goes that fast. The big news today was retail sales. A big miss in retail sales. They're expecting it down to be down 0.2. It actually was down 0.9%. They got to remember, though, this is seasonally adjusted, so they try to factor the whole Christmas stuff out. December, it was revised from 0.4 to 0.7, so makes it not quite as bad. By the way, the biggest drop in several years. To give you a sense of how much the data is adjusted, non-seasonally adjusted, down 16.5%. So that, and again, that kind of makes sense, right? You got Christmas, and then once Christmas is over, right, everybody is spending less. Core retail sales fell 0.5%. The control group, which feeds GDP, see, they always got, like, how many more numbers do we need? That was down 0.8%. They were actually expecting the control group to up 0.3. Why is this control group important? This is what they use for GDP. So they use this quote-unquote control. Why? Who knows? I don't know. Some miraculous number that I'm sure somehow makes things appear better than what they are. But, Jason, a much lower number than expected. And then Joann, the fabric store, they already filed bankruptcy last year. Filing bankruptcy again. They had 800 stores remaining. Jason, they're going to shut 500 more locations. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see if Joann's makes it out of this. This may go to a liquidation. And then the CEO of Ford said that the tariffs from Donald Trump will blow a hole in the auto industry as manufacturers faced a spike in cost and chaos, as the CEO of Ford said. Let's be real honest long term. Remember, we've got a 25% steel and aluminum tariff. Then he's talking about tariffs on Canada and Mexico blowing. Oh, you got to remember that for the automakers, they build all. And when I'm telling you all, I mean all. All maybe the Corvette being the lone exception. They build all their cars in Mexico or Canada. They build no cars here. They build trucks here. They build some SUVs here. But, the quote-unquote sedans and all that, none of that is built here. Jason, the interesting thing is it looks like, according to Ford, look for new vehicle costs to jump another 6% or more. And again, the whole inflation problem. But now, do we have stagflation starting to set in? Now, it's only a month. But this bad retail sales number, but higher inflation, that's the stagflation, right? When the economy kind of just grinds to a halt, and yet prices are still rising. It's only a month. It's too early to tell, but probably not the sign people were hoping for.
No, and when you're dependent upon foreign labor and foreign goods for cheap prices, then obviously tariffs is something that's going to, as the Ford guy said, tear a hole in their business model. So, yes. That's pretty good language, I guess. It's going to tear a hole in the auto industry. I mean, my guess is that's tear a hole in the profits. And Joe, I don't know how tariffs aren't going to do this with every industry. How is it not going to tear a hole in every industry? This is inflation. It's great. The whole tariff thing is great because everyone can just point fingers at each other. It's everyone else's fault. It's the president's fault. It's the Chinese fault. It's the inflation. It's the bankers' fault. It's the too much printed money. Too much money.
Yep, too much money. Yesterday, Donald Trump did sign what he called the reciprocal tariffs, and he did make a really good point in this reciprocal tariffs. He says, I don't care what you guys call it. Call it. So some countries just do tariffs. Some countries put a special tax on U.S. goods. Some countries do what they call a value-added tax on things. So Donald Trump says, hey, I don't care what you call it, but we're going to even this thing out. So whatever you're charging, we're going to start charging. Now, here's the good news. This won't start for 6 weeks. So this, at least it's delayed. I'm assuming Trump's giving them time to lower them, right? Hey, I'll give you 6 weeks to lower some of your stuff. But this was a blanket order. So this is not country, like, hey, this is just Mexico or China or Canada. This is all countries globally that are charging tariffs, taxes, value-added taxes, whatever, fees, right? Any of these things that the United States is going to retaliate with goods coming in. And I think, Jason, this is why I said when you talk about whether it's Bank of America now talking about $3,500 gold, right? All of these things add to cost. He did admit that it may cost us more. Okay, yeah, but it's going to make America a fortune. This is kind of the thing that I said. They need the tariff money to pay. So just extending the Trump tax cuts, I want people to understand, just extending that. The over the 10-year deal. $4.5 trillion. So let's just round it up. $5 trillion. Well, that means you got to come up with $500 billion a year. Right? So these tariffs are absolutely coming. There's no doubt that it's going to have a big effect on things going forward. And we'll see. We'll see the effects. At the same time, he's going to slow down government spending. At least that's what it looks like. I mean, they were out again today saying, listen, they're going to fire 200,000 government employees no matter what happens. Only 75,000 took the bailout, or the buyout, not the bailout, the buyout. Jason, wow. These next 6 weeks are going to be very, very interesting. And it's something where I think everybody's kind of bracing because no one's quite sure. They love the idea. I love the idea. Hey, you guys have been treating us really crappy ever since we did. Go back to the mid-1990s with NAFTA and GATT. What horrible ideas. Understand how they set this up. Okay, ready? This is our brilliance. See, because we wanted to get our banks into all these countries. That's really was. If you want to know what NAFTA and GATT was about, that was what it was about. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. And in order to do it, we essentially said, go ahead and rip us off. Go ahead and rip us off. Remember Alan Greenspan? We don't want those jobs anyway. Remember? That was like a big thing. Right? That was a big thing in the night. We don't want these You don't want to work for Ford and you don't want to work on an assembly plant, right? You want to, of course, TikTok wasn't around yet, but hey, you're gonna make videos and do stuff like that. Right? How great it'll be. Now, somebody figured out, gosh, we really don't make anything. I mean, we can barely build a ship in this country anymore. That's true. And now we want it back, apparently. So no more ripping us off. Well, let me tell you, one of the great things about NAFTA and GATT, we had this miraculous, probably, 10 years or so. Everything got cheaper. Right? Things got, inflation. Remember, oh my gosh, if we could just get to 2% inflation, Well, guess what, guys? How do you think we got there? Right? We gave these cheaper countries all the ability to make this stuff. They can charge us less. Of course, that's over now because, let's face it, even with them doing it for less, it still costs more. But now we want it back. Jason, that is going to be an incredible amount of cost to the American consumer because we gave so much of it away. I mean, let's face it, and not to mention, can anybody get a job for less than $15 or $20 an hour? No. Listen, if you're only paying $15 an hour, nobody wants to work for you. I mean, already the cost of commodities, the cost of labor, it's so expensive, and now we're going to throw these tariffs on it. Yeah. Get ready. Everybody better have your gold and silver put away because you're going to need it. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. We sold out of all of our specials that we had been running for the last 3 days. The Morgan dollars, the Peace dollars, the $20 gold pieces with the 1 gram gold bars. All of those are sold out. But today we've got a great opportunity in the silver markets today. When we're looking at silver right now, like I said, this morning, got up to almost $33.50. Today we've got 45 rolls, so not even a half of a bag, but we got 45 rolls of quarters at $240. That puts the price at $33.56 an ounce. We've got 90 rolls of dimes for $120. So the dimes, there's 50 dimes in a roll, $5 face value at $120 on the silver quarters. There's 40 of them in a roll at $10 face value. So twice as much silver in a roll of quarters versus a roll of dimes. But $240 on the quarters, $120 on the dimes. The Lombardi letter, if you guys follow Lombardi, he's a big silver bull. And he's talking about his belief that silver will hit $50 this year. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. And I've said this, I'm being conservative. I think we're going to see $40 silver. I do. When we look at silver demand, even though, think about this, Jason, I'm telling you, demand's not great. You know, the U.S. Mint still made 25 million Silver Eagles last year, 25 million. Do you know that was more than, in 2022, as an example, they only made 16 million? Probably the reason why the premiums were so high, right? Right back then, right? That was when you were paying $10 over for an ounce of silver. 25 million ounces. So it's not as bad as maybe sometimes we let on. Obviously, the gold to silver ratio, it has been way, way out of whack. Like right now, it's almost 90. 90 ounces of silver for 1 ounce of gold. Historically, that would be right at the previous all-time record high. But believe it or not, last year we got up to like 120. But normally we expect to see this number between, say, 50 and 70, Jason, not 90, right? And it's been this way for the last several, really almost since COVID, really kind of like since 2021. And a lot of people, me included, expect this number to come in. And the biggest reason, these are all good. Hey, that sounds great. Okay, so demand's really not terrible. Yeah, the gold to silver ratio, that's out of those sound all well and good. But it's the last one that really matters. Supply. And how badly supply continues to struggle. And really, you can point the finger at the biggest issue, Mexico. Right? And Mexico now wanting to nationalize their mines. They're having a whole lot of trouble getting silver out of the ground. Their great silver mines are running low. The problem is nobody invested in new ones, right? You know, kind of need that. And I think we're setting up here, so grab this here, jump on this. Well, come on. You're talking about buying it within $1 a spot. Heck, this morning, you would have been buying it literally at melt this morning. 800-951-0592. And I want to talk, earlier we were talking about what is going yesterday. Why is all this gold coming to New York? What is going on? See, that's not a paper contract. That means somebody in New York said, I want delivery. They're emptying out the vaults in England. By the way, we don't talk about it. We need to talk about it. The same thing's happening in silver. Just gold gets the headlines. The same exact thing. And yesterday, J.P. Morgan came out and said, none of it's going to go back. Which I think kind of surprised some people, because I think what J.P. Morgan is letting people know is, hey guys, this isn't a paper shuffle. This isn't anything like that. And yeah, we use tariffs. What a great cover story to do this. But Jason, whoever decided, you said Elon Musk, it's got to be guys like that. Really wealthy people. I'm not talking about, the richest guy in your neighborhood. I'm not talking about that guy. Right? You're talking about guys that literally dominate the Fortune 500, right? Who's the 500 richest men in the world? One thing they're saying, why not leave it in England? It has been the mecca of gold and silver trading forever. Why not just leave it there? I think there's a big change coming, Jason. We're going to have the East versus the West, and I think England's going to be out. We talked yesterday about, hey, the two big drivers in this, it wasn't tariffs. Bloomberg was talking about, only can be two things that we see here. One of them was, is the government getting ready to repatriate or reevaluate their price of gold in order to try to drive the yield in the 10-year note down? Right? Because remember, right now, we value gold at $42.22. Well, gosh, if we would value it at like $3,000, $3,500, that would be, by the way, that equates to about $11 billion. That would be $1 trillion. See the difference? Interesting. But they said there may be a different reason. We'll share that when we get back. $800-951-0592. Today's special, rolls of silver quarters and rolls of silver dimes. The quarters, $10 face value, 40 quarters, $240 a roll. the rolls of silver dimes at $120 a roll. That puts your cost right around $33.50 per ounce. I mean, heck, silver touched that, well, almost touched that this morning. And, of course, we're talking about, don't be fooled. Silver is going from London to New York just like gold is, and really the supply side problem continues to be a huge, huge problem when we talk about both silver and gold. You know, silver, you're talking about negative supply. Negative. And guess what? 2025 is going to be the fourth straight year of this. And yes, they can hold it, but they can only hold the price down for so long. And like I said, people talk about gold, and it's been great, obviously. Like we were just talking about, it's almost up $1,000 in 12 months. Well, guess what? Silver's kept pace. It's right there. It's still sitting at about 90 ounces for an ounce of gold. That's where it was a year ago, right? So silver's going with it. And then you start talking about, why is this happening? You know, and Bloomberg yesterday, followed by Bank of America today, started laying all of this out. Hey, there's really only a couple of reasons. One, which they said was kind of we're going to put less on this one, was the U.S. revaluing its gold holdings. I think it's going to happen. I think they're going to need to do it. Here's the thing. $3,500 isn't going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. It's going to have to be a lot higher to get this thing under control. But the other part, Jason, which is really about losing faith, right, in fiat money and making decisions that, you know what, I'm seeing where the world's going. Not only do I want to hold gold, but they're also making a decision as to where they want to hold it. I mean, when you're starting to see stories where Korean banks say they're out of gold, China's banks, we're out of gold, right? You're seeing all of this stuff happening in the East on top of all the central bank buying that's been going on. And now, this is not ETF buying. This is big, big players saying, not only do I want physical delivery, they could have taken physical delivery in London, but they didn't. I'm going to take physical delivery in America. Send it over there. I think that's a huge warning about what's coming, and I hope people get smart. You got big IRAs, get some of it into a precious metals IRA. Call us. We can help you do that. Get more diversified. Pick up this cheap silver. This is cheap, cheap silver. Pick it up today. 800-951-0592. And like I said, Bank of America this morning, a 10% increase in investment demand. So he's talking ETFs, and he's talking about people, calling Patriot. That's what he's talking about. A 10% increase in that will drive prices to $3,500 an ounce. And Jason, I almost find it impossible that we don't get a 10% increase.
Well, once again, I was thinking when you were talking about countries running out of gold, I was looking at the Korean thing that you had mentioned earlier. You don't think of Korea as like a big gold country, right? But South Korea is, they have a pretty decent economy. and now they want gold, right? You know, well, where did it all go? Well, you said in the last segment, Joe, that you believe that some big change is coming, and all the way that all this gold is moving around. When did the news ever report gold moving around, right? This ship. What I'm wondering is, going back to like the 1700s or something. You know, what if one of these ships sinks has all the gold on it when they're moving it all around, right? Because that's the one thing about gold; it's a physical asset. This isn't, you know, you got the gold ETF and the spot price. So you're right, Joe. All these things that you're bringing up, it's showing how weak the monetary system is. It's a reset. It's a monetary reset's happening, and it's interesting how quickly gold became important. I mean, I thought they would try to reset this thing and try to keep gold on the sidelines, and it's gold's grabbing way too much of the headlines as far as anything I've ever seen recently, Joe.
Let me tell you about silver. How it was in this note from Bank of America. I did not know this. So, you know, you don't think of the United States as a big silver consumer from a producer perspective. Guess what? That's not true. Wait till I tell you the numbers and where we get our silver from. And the implications of it may be a lot more dramatic than I even thought. You know what? Before I get on the phone, get some of these rolls put away. But you're not going to want to miss. This may be the most important 4 minutes on silver when we get back. Stay tuned. 800-951-0592. The special for today, and it won't last much longer. We had a limited supply of dime rolls and quarter rolls, pre-1965 silver dimes and quarters. $5 face value dime rolls at $120. $10 face value silver quarters, 40 silver quarters at $240 at 800-951-0592. And when we look at this, Jason, here's the thing. I want to sell it to you because otherwise, if I bring this back to us, they're just going to melt them down. Jason will tell you they are melting down these bags. I'm going to tell you, there's going to come a time here very quickly where you're going to see huge premiums because they melted down so much of this gold and silver to meet this demand for physical, and I'm talking large quantity physical. It's off the charts, but I wanted to point this out. For the United States, between what we use at the mint and other applications, you know, our tech industry, the United States only produces 17% of total domestic silver demand. So that means, what does that mean? Well, 83% has to come somewhere else. 10% comes from Canada. Okay, so now, well, now where's the other 73% coming from? Well, guess what? You guessed it, Mexico. Now, all of a sudden, a 10% tariff. Jason, all of a sudden, that makes a big difference, doesn't it? Not to mention Mexico, the largest decliner in silver supply in the world. They're the largest producer of silver, miner of silver, and they also are facing the largest declines in silver production. So when you start thinking about silver, the amount that we actually import is huge. We import gold, too. We don't obviously make enough gold either. But way more silver needs to be imported. And I think, you know, when you start thinking about can silver touch $50, heck yes it can. And if if the Trump administration decides, hey, we need the money, right? We got to get we got to get to $1 trillion worth of tariff spending. You can rest assured Mexico and Canada are going to get hit with silver tariffs, which is going to drive the price absolutely crazy. And I think you're going to see the mint. You know what's going to happen? The mint's going to go back to minting 16 million ounces instead of 25 million ounces, and all of a sudden, you're going to have to pay $10 over spot for silver. I mean, I think that's just a logical conclusion.
Yeah, well, with all this price action going up, like you said, the melting, we might only get 16 million out for 2025 before the tariffs, Joe, as far as the trajectory, but will they even get 16 million if the tariffs get severe? So Joe's number might be too high. We might see a good 10 or 12 million, Joe. I mean, it could happen very quickly if 1,000-ounce silver deliverable bars are more important than getting 1-ounce blanks to the mint, Joe.
Yeah, and right now, that's what's been happening. Delivery of 400-ounce gold bars and 1,000-ounce silver bars is more important than anything else right now. 800-951-0592. Jason and I are coming right back with the half-empty cup. Stay with us.